everybody, and welcome back to the On Deck podcast. This is episode 6, and I am your host, Roberto. Today we have numerous topics to talk about. We have Roki Sasaki making his highly anticipated first spring training appearance. We have Jose Quintana signing with the Brewers. We have Luis Gil going down to an injury. And also we have Sean Murphy also going down with an injury. So all of that will be discussed on today's podcast. So jumping right into what everybody has been highly anticipated and waiting for was the first appearance of Roki Sasaki in an actual MLB game and not just a sim game on the backfield. He faced actual MLB hitters today with a couple minor leaguers in his later innings, but he came in after Yamamoto had pitched 4 strong innings, and Roki Sasaki, honestly, he impressed me quite a bit. The first thing that really jumped out at me was the fastball velo, which had been something that scouts were looking at the last couple years with him in Japan. Due to injuries, it was averaging around 97.5. But in the WBC, he was averaging well over 100. And to see that he was in the upper 90s, I think he touched 100 once during the game. That's just a great sign to see off the bat, showing that he's healthy and ready to contribute into this rotation, which we'll talk about a little later in this segment. He had started off his outing with a 99-mile-per-hour fastball that Noelvi Marte grounded out to shortstop, and then proceeded to give up a double, and then drilled Stuart Fairchild in the ribs. And quite honestly, I thought it was just the nerves getting to him, and the wheels were just about to fall off, but he did lock it in for the next couple batters, which had resulted in 2 strikeouts. One of them was looking on the slider, and then the other was on the fastball. And the slider overall, it was looking pretty sharp. The first couple, he didn't really have a feel for it in the first inning. But once the second and third inning rolled around, the slider was looking really sharp. It was averaging around 83 to 86. And I think that could be a real weapon for him, especially practically him being a 2-pitch pitcher right now, with the fastball being elite, and same with the splitter, which is honestly one of the nastier pitches in baseball that we will definitely be seeing that on multiple accounts, especially on Pitching Ninja, with how nasty that pitch is, because just seeing it live on TV, it really does just fall off the plate, and it's a hard split too. One of the things that I did notice that I think the Dodgers will eventually end up changing is where Sasaki has his hands and his gloves set up before he delivers the pitch, whether that be with the guys on or nobody on base. I think his hands are just a little too high and too presentable to the center field camera. And I know they tweaked this with Yamamoto last year and made a change to where he holds his hands in his delivery. And that was also due to seeing pitches from that center field camera and, not giving those batters any chance to really pick up a tell of what they're throwing. So I think Sasaki, that'd be something for me to look out for in the next coming starts or appearances if he comes out of the bullpen rather than starting. That's just something I would pay attention for, because I think with him also being technically a 2-pitch pitcher, maybe 3 with that slider, and if they add a cutter to him, which I still think is the ideal mix for him, if you go fastball, which is elite, that splitter, which is an 80 grade splitter, like hands down. Slider is I think it's a work in progress for him to consistently land that pitch. It's more of a pitch to get batters off of the fastball and the split. And then I think he ends up throwing a harder slider, which probably would turn into a cutter. But overall, I was quite impressed with Sasaki's showing, and I think he gets one more appearance slash start before they have their start of the regular season in Tokyo against the Cubs. So that'll be interesting because I think he will be going game number 2, and Yamamoto will be getting the quote unquote opening day start. Now, jumping over to another National League pitcher, we have Jose Quintana signing with the Milwaukee Brewers on a 1-year, $4.3 million deal. And I think this is a solid pickup for the Brewers. Honestly, I'm quite surprised it took him this long to find a suitor. And funny enough, apparently he was supposed to pitch for Team Columbia next week in the WBC qualifier. So I think he'd much rather be pitching in MLB baseball rather than for Team Columbia. But I think it's a solid pickup for the Brewers with them having an already solid rotation, with, of course, Freddie Peralta being the ace of the staff until Woodruff comes back from shoulder capsule surgery, and hopefully you get some good quality innings out of that guy, because we all know, I mean, it's been a while since Woodruff has been on the mound, but we need to remember he is one of the better pitchers that was in the National League when healthy. But we have Tobias Myers, who really showed out last year. They traded for Nestor Cortez Jr. from the Yankees. They have Aaron Savali. They have Aaron Ashby coming back from injury, and hopefully he can bounce back and be either a very valuable starter or even a long man out of the bullpen. But I think Jose Quintana, at the end of the day, will really lengthen out this starting rotation, and he's going to eat innings. He's going to eat innings as he always been doing. He's probably going to pitch around like a high 3s, low 4s. And if you can get 130, 140, 150 innings out of him this year, I think it's a great success. And knowing the Brewers and that pitching lab over there, he's going to make a change to something in his repertoire or pitch usage that's just going to make him that much more effective. And at 37 years old, he's probably going to put up a very, very solid year. And probably not to be expected for someone his age, especially at the age of 37, where guys are usually on the decline. I think he can still be a very, very solid arm for this Brewers rotation. Now, one of the last pitchers we're going to talk about today is Luis Gil, and it's not good news. During a bullpen on Thursday, he was dealing with some discomfort on his right side, and then went to go get an MRI, and that MRI had come back and shown that there was a high-grade lat strain in his right side, his throwing side, and like a couple other pitchers on the other side of New York, have also been dealing with lat strains, and this is going to put Luis Gil out for the 6 to 8 weeks that Frankie Montas is also out for. Now, with this injury, the real question is who fills out that fifth starter role, because when the Yankees had signed Max Fried, they had 4 of the 5 positions already locked, with Cole going as the 1, Fried as the 2, Rodon as the 3, Gil as the 4, and then you had Clark Schmidt, Marcus Stroman, Will Warren, and Nestor Cortez being possible 5s. And now with these injuries, the question is who steps up, because that would immediately put Clark back in the rotation. And they already had traded away Nestor, so the fight really goes between Marcus Stroman and Will Warren, who, by the way, has looked really good in his 8 innings of spring training work. And yes, I know, it is spring training, but still, comparing his spring training of last year, where he clearly looked like, he was working on stuff, he was very unpolished, to this year, really almost being a Michael King light. Looking at the side-by-side comparisons and how his pitches really profile out, he's looking like a really budget Mike King. And we all know what the Yankees did with Michael King in the couple years that he was here, bouncing between starter and bullpen. But getting back to this Luis Gil injury and what that means for that fifth spot, I think it might go to whoever just has the better spring. I think that Stroman has made it well aware that he isn't pitching out of the bullpen. But if he loses out this fight between him and Will Warren, could you see a possible trade? I personally don't think so. I think the Yankees will be kind of forced into putting Stroman back into the rotation. But the real thing to watch out for is, I think in this contract, if he goes over 140 innings, that will then trigger an opt-in for next year into his contract, which I think is around 14 or 15 million. I'm not too sure off the top of my head, but I think the Yankees will try to avoid that and will try to limit his innings. And I think that might not be the best solution because Marcus Stroman is quite a fiery guy on and off the field. So it'll be interesting how that plays out. I think Will Warren could also be a great option. He also does have options, with the Yankees always like to do with their pitching prospects, bring them up and then send them back down. But yeah, really interesting how this will play out. I think you can't go wrong with either or of them, but I think Marcus Stroman does get that extra nudge just because he is Stroman. He has kind of proved it a little better than Will Warren has, and they're also paying him quite a lot, and I don't think anybody's going to want to take on that contract at this point. So I think the Yankees just ride out Stroman as long as they can until Luis Gil is back and able to pitch. And then the question is, do you immediately put Luis Gil back into the starting rotation? I could see the possibility of the Yankees putting Gil into a bullpen role, at least to keep him, throwing on a consistent basis. But he has the stuff to be an elite reliever. I think it just all comes down to how everybody in the rotation is pitching. More specifically, like Clark, Clark and Stroman, that they'll really be paying attention to. And if those guys are kind of sputtering a little bit, I think you could see a phantom IL for one of them just to get Luis Gil a couple starts under his belt to really see what he has in the rotation. Now, moving on to the last piece that I wanted to cover, and it's really bad news that, especially for Braves fans, Sean Murphy is going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks with a cracked rib. Really unfortunate news, but it's really unfortunate for this lineup. And this lineup, especially at the catcher's position, isn't looking good. On roster resources right now, it has Drake Baldwin catching and the backup catcher being Chadwick Trump. And I don't know about you guys, but that isn't even like bench replacement level catching. I know Drake Baldwin is a very highly touted prospect in the Atlanta Braves system. He was going to be a main piece in the Dylan Cease trade that was going to happen, but Atlanta shut that down as soon as San Diego said they wanted Drake Baldwin as the headline piece. But I think that's they have really no option to, unless a trade is made. But why would you trade for a catcher that's only going to be out give or take a month? But they should be able to keep afloat, but it is a lot to ask of a rookie having to come in and handle a pitching staff that is very, very good, honestly, with Sale, Lopez, Schwellenbach, and you have Strider coming back at some point. But yeah, the catching tandem really isn't doing it for me. I mean, it's not like Drake Baldwin or Chadwick Trump is going to be an absolute black hole. According to Fangraphs and roster resources, um, Trump is expected to have an 86 WRC plus, and Drake Baldwin is potentially going to have a 95 WRC plus. So it's not terrible. Obviously, you hope to have good defensive metrics from both of them, to at least subsidize the lack of impact that they're giving from the plate. But it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. They do have some heavy hitters still. They signed Profar. They still have Marcell Ozuna. You still have Acuna coming back at some point. You have Michael Harris. Like, this lineup is still very capable of putting runs on the board. You're hoping a bounce back from Austin Riley too, making him stay healthy. Same with Albies. Like, hopefully the catching or lack of impact from the catching position isn't felt too much. But this definitely sucks for Sean Murphy, someone who I thought, injury riddled season last year, but in the season prior to that really showed out as one of the top 5 catchers in the game, both offensively and defensively. Always has had very good defensive metrics, good at throwing guys out, great pop time. But yeah, really, really sucks to see an injury go down like this. I think last year too, he had the oblique problem at the beginning of the year, close to, I think it might have been around the same time, spring training, just approaching the season. So really unfortunate for Sean Murphy and the Atlanta Braves, but hopefully this can work out and, they can provide some offensive output from Chadwick Trump and Drake Baldwin. This is a great scenario also for Drake Baldwin if we're looking at it from another perspective. He gets all the runway he can in a month and a half to really show out, to show what he can do on both sides of the ball. And hopefully he makes enough of an impact to really stay at the major league level, because if he does, there's not really a reason to have him back in AAA or even AA. Can have him be the backup, give Sean Murphy a couple more days off during the week. Really be a benefit to both of them for long term for Sean Murphy and coming back from injury, but also development for Drake Baldwin, seeing and getting consistent reps both behind the plate and catching pitchers, getting more familiar with them. So I think it could work out in the end for both sides. And quickly, just before we finish up today's podcast, just wanted to shout out Mike Trout. He had a home run today in the first inning against the Dodgers, his second of the spring. And it's just a lovely, lovely sight to see when Mike Trout is having the success that he is, staying healthy. I did see him get hit by a pitch. I did get a little worried, but I'm glad to see that he was able to hit a home run today, because, man, there isn't just anything that I want more at this point than a healthy Mike Trout, because we all know if he's on the field, he's going to be producing and can just put up an MVP season if he really wanted to and put his mind to it. So that'll be it for today's episode. I hope you guys all enjoyed that. Let me know in the comments section below if you guys disagree or agree with anything that I said. Be interesting to hear you guys' takes on some of the things that were said today. But I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in. Rate and review on Apple Podcasts and rate 5 stars on Spotify. It is greatly, greatly appreciated. Get the podcast out to more people. And we'll catch you guys on the next one.